It's been a while since I've made a video, and that's because I don't want to just make crappy videos. I don't want to just make a video because I haven't made one for a while. I want to make a video that has real topic to it, because it's worth describing something, or at least giving someone some ideas or things to think about. And so in this video I'm going to be talking about contemplating your own intelligence. It's a good thing to do, although it is somewhat pretentious because you have to assume that you're intelligent. And the only way that you can do this is by using your some knowledge to approximate your some knowledge, and that doesn't work. I mean, if you were to, like, say for example, have some sort of computerized test that had all the information in the world, and it could give you a percentage of your knowledge. We cannot store all the information in the world, or at least, like, even all the meticulous details of every single subject at once in our head, because there is simply not enough storage space. There's a lot of storage in our head, but there is so much stuff in the world. If you knew almost everything there is to know about every kind of field, like psychology and chemistry and biology and engineering and physics and etc., after a while you would forget the other ones that you're not going over soon enough, because your brain does not have enough room to store all this information. And that's why you have to be able to reason what the most useful information is. I like information, at least I find the most useful information is to be able to explain what something is and exactly how it works in meticulous detail. Now, there are some things that are not as interesting, at least information that I don't care to know. Like what football team won the Super Bowl, or some shit like that. I don't care. It's boring to me. It's just a bunch of guys doing something that looks rather gay as they go up and tackle each other and then get traumatic brain injury. So stuff like that, information about sports history, I don't care. That's not useful information in my subjective opinion. So upon examining my own intelligence when I was younger, I came to realize that what I seemed to be doing is acting like I knew things that I didn't. Even if I, say if I knew a little bit about a subject, I would act like I knew more than I did. And I came to realize that that is stupid, and that is no way to learn how things really work. And you have to realize that. I don't know quite how I came to that understanding, but you have to realize that you're not as smart as you think you are. Even I think I'm smart because almost everyone I know tells me that I'm smart. And also, when I think about things in great detail that are rather complicated, or even just very specific and philosophical, like the kind of things I'm talking about now, I'll often maybe lose track of what I was talking about, which is particularly annoying since I don't edit my videos. But it's the kind of thing where, there I go doing it just as I said. Yeah, so I will forget what I was talking about when I'm talking about something that is important and of relevant detail, something that it has a lot of specific, meticulous details, something that is hard or difficult, and I will wish that I was smarter than I was. And then I'm thinking, well, you know what? There's no limit. You become smarter when you do things that make you smart. And that doesn't mean acting like a smartass. Although I do like to act like a smart aleck in the sense that, I like to be able to know information about things like I helped my teacher open up an old computer today, and it was a computer that I've never seen a computer that opened like that. I'm used to a computer, my first desktop computer, when opened, would just come off with one panel after you screwed off some bolts. This one slid open, and I, of course, just figured that out using, I guess, another kind of intelligence, not a not a fact-based intelligence, but more of a reasoning-based intelligence. Looking at the cracks on the side of the computer and looking at where it might open. And then there's 2 buttons you're supposed to press and open it. We're unable to do that, and I realized that the teacher, when she was pushing the buttons and I was trying to open it, she had her thumb on a spot where it might be opening from. And then when I asked her to move her thumb, it opened. And this is a rather old computer. And I was even able to identify the hard drive in it, which was what she was trying to salvage. But it's mainly because my dad's a computer programmer, and I didn't study that kind of stuff. I didn't learn it in school, or at least, yeah, pretty much all of my computer knowledge has come from my father. And they do teach us some things in school, but nothing compared to what my dad knows, because he's been a computer programmer since desktop computers were just like, oh, isn't that like a neat thing? You know, something that has like, I'm pretty sure I referred to, he was talking about some sort of Apple computer from a long time ago that had 8 bits of memory. It's just hard to even imagine from today's standards, but I mean, because my phone has nearly 100 gig on it. That's how I'm filming a video, and I have movies and songs and other things downloaded on my phone that I can use for entertainment, as well as games and other things taking up many gigabytes of space. And a gigabyte is dang, I hope I don't mess this up. Is it 1,000,000 bytes? I think so. Because a kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. No, a megabyte is 1,000,000 bytes. So a gigabyte maybe is 1,000,000,000,000 bytes. I'm not exactly sure, but you could figure this stuff out if you looked it up. I should know it though. I mean, since I'm able to figure out other things about computers. But this is the kind of intelligence that I didn't learn on my own. I just came across it because of my father. And this is how you get much of the intelligence that you start out with from your parents. And so if your parents aren't very smart, then that can be hard. But that should still not be a limitation. If you want to learn things, if you find something interesting, then you should take it upon yourself to learn about it. You have the internet. You can go and search things. You can get books about things on the internet and paper books. And the more you learn about this kind of stuff, the more interesting it becomes. At least with computers, from the beginning, I was not really that interested in them because they're just, you know, like this weird plastic chip thing with some metal kind of stuff on it that somehow generates this thing. But once I actually learned how it worked, it became extremely interesting. You know, how computers work. They have electrons, you know, flow through them, and they do it in such a scale that it becomes somewhat like a human brain, or somewhat like an animal brain. I mean, animals have powerful brains even if they're not in certain, you know, prefrontal lobe areas as developed as we are. They're still very smart, and they are more evolved than we are in ways that we are not. We are obviously more evolved for making things. We have these hands that are very useful for making things. We can make technology like what I'm filming this on and what you're watching this on. And we can do other things, and that's pretty much our specialty. When you look at something like how humans fight, you know, humans are just another animal. You kind of have to consider that. We are. When you look at humans fight, it's rather pathetic. You know, our fingernails are not claws. They're made for scratching when you need to scratch, when you're itching, or when there's something you need to get off of you, or, you know, if there's something stuck to you and you have an evolutionary advantage by being able to scratch that off. But that means we don't have claws. And our fangs, our canines, are highly recessed. That's why they don't stick out of our mouths or anything. That's why we can speak properly. But other creatures are more evolved for certain things, like my dog is way smarter than me or any human when it comes to the ability to perceive, process, and understand smells. We use smells for certain things, we like smells, we dislike smells, but it's most importantly used to be able to determine whether your food is bad, at least from an evolutionary perspective. That's how I see it. I'm sure there are other perspectives from it, but at least that's the main one I can see. If you can smell the fact that your food is rotting, then you're less likely to get food poisoning from eating rotting food. And we don't need to be able to smell another human's feces and determine that that human is, like a 23-year-old who's like had a cold for the few weeks, but he just got over it, and all this kind of information that a dog can determine by sniffing the feces of another dog or human. And that is, you have to admit that is an impressive feat of intelligence that we do not possess. So, some geese flying through the air right above me. Yeah, but so that's an impressive feat of intelligence. The fact that things like those geese and other birds that can navigate more quickly and precisely than any human can, any trained fighter pilot could, that also shows a certain degree of natural superiority when it comes to a certain purpose for the brain and how it works with the body. I need some water. Glad I don't have any. So, when you're able to contemplate your own intelligence, you can come to realize that your opinion is subjective. And even though you can realize that, it makes you think that you can then form an objective, hypothesis, when all you have to go by is subjective information. And the only things that I would consider to be objective are things that you can point out and are irrefutable. Obviously, at a certain point, this becomes subjective to the person. Like God, for example. I could easily argue that it's irrefutable that God exists. You cannot point to God or actually prove in any way that any kind of miracle that you've witnessed is actually the result of God and not a coincidence or the result of someone thinking that God is going to save them, increasing their morale, and actually boosting their immune system, which is a proven scientific thing. I mean, like faith healing. If you think you're going to get healed, you can recover impressively. In fact, it's miraculous in the sense that people can recover by thinking that they're going to be okay. But at the same sense, in the other diseases like cancer, and sometimes this happens with cancer, but sometimes, very rarely, cancer just goes away on its own. And sometimes it comes back, and sometimes you're born with it. And it really, it's just weird, but it's the kind of thing that most people who have faith healing and they have terminal cancer, they're going to die. Like the vast majority of them. Whereas medical science is kind of like the other way around. The percentage of people that can survive because their morale is high, somehow, I can't explain that, but there probably is some sort of scientific basis for which that observation is made. I mean, chemically, dealing with the hormones or something. Darn, losing track of what I was going to say. Well, it's already 14 minutes long. Maybe I'll end it here and make a part 2 when I remember what I was going to say.